Now, this headline story is one we've been tracking for you since yesterday, when the Constitutional Court ruled that parts of the Electoral Act are unconstitutional in that it does not allow independents to contest national and provincial elections. The lack of oversight on service delivery has been seen as a stumbling block for democracy, but will a change in the electoral system allow independents to stand for public office and bring accountability at the same time? How can we have a mixed system in the national and provincial elections? Let's try and unpack it now with someone who ran the country's first election post-democracy, and that is Dr. Brigalia Bam, who joins us now to discuss this decision by the Constitutional Court. Dr. Bam, thanks so much for your time this morning on the AM report. For those of us who are still coming to grips with just exactly what this decision by the Constitutional Court means, give us your insights.
Well, it's too soon for me to do that because all these matters have to be debated once the decisions have been made. There are those matters that are of a constitutional nature that tend to demand the thinking to come from those people who are experts, if I may use that word, experts in the Constitution. But then those things, elections are things also that matter to many of us, the ordinary people who are not really experts in Constitution, but who follow to the best of our ability, you know, the laws of the country. I'm excited about this debate. I'm excited that this is on our agenda. What I'm also hoping for, which is an important comment, is that as far as elections go for us, there are a number of things. Some of them are not things of really the Constitution. Some of them are practices and ethics. You just made a mention of accountability. As sometimes, you know, the Constitution is drawn up, which is protecting us. But there are always those minor things in the Constitution, like accountability, like issues of ethics.
Yeah.
And so these things to ordinary people simple means. What do those things mean to their day-to-day living, to the issues of people being honest, you know, for people who are caring, you know, and for people who are caring for other people. Unfortunately, the tendency now, which is world over, it's not peculiar to South Africa, is that when people go to politics, and with that we have to deal with, when people go to politics, we think that they really want to be politicians, they want power, they want to rule. So those are images. So the minute some people hear the word independence, which is a wonderful word because it means you are talking of people who are independent. And independence, you know, means, of course, to most people, you are not accountable. You know, it is the interpretation of independence. Now, if you are an individual who decides in your own right that you want to go to Parliament and you want to speak for hundreds and hundreds of people, I'm not talking Constitution now, I'm talking about an individual who takes on this responsibility. So though it's an exciting thing, and there are several other things that go around that independence. Who is this independent person? What kind of qualifications does this person? Those things are not in the Constitution. Who comes? What do we do, if I may use the word, as I don't like to, what do we do with a rogue?
Yes.
Who wants to be independent? What do we do with a rogue who has absolutely no reputation of character? What do we do with a rogue who doesn't have any, what we would consider a skill or experience? And so we use the word independent, yes, fine. What about those things that go with that independence? So I think it's a wonderful debate, but it will also assist South Africa not only to confine it strictly to that part of the Constitution, but to look at other things in our Constitution, because we have only been using this Constitution for only a few years. And it's normal in most countries in the world that we have copied from, that elections change, practices change, because communities change. If you deal with as in South Africa, where you have a lot of communities who participate in elections, who live in dire poverty, who cannot read and write, there is a difference in a country about the character of the country. Where in a society you have people, of course, who are privileged to be living in a huge city. So there are a lot of other things. You can't isolate altogether the Constitution from the realities of an environment.
No, absolutely.
And so we have copied a lot of things, which is wonderful. In our Constitution, we have wonderful things.
Yeah.
Copied a lot of things from other countries that have been changing their constitutions and have been running elections for hundreds of years. And we were lucky to be able to get those models from them. But some of those models, of course, as you can well imagine, are not fitting necessarily in everything in our society. So I think it's a debate that is not only going to be in the courts, I hope it will be a debate that will open itself to the public in general, to other people, the ordinary people, to understand what does it mean, what are its implications to their rights, to their protection, what will be the responsibility of these candidates, whom will they be accountable to? When you use the word independent, how does that word tie up with accountability? That really, to me, in my own, is key.
And I suppose, Dr. Bam, it's also interesting to see how the IEC is going to respond. Sai Mamabolo saying that it will now work with Parliament to make the necessary amendments. I mean, with your experience, what would those amendments include?
I don't know now. I wouldn't want to speak for them, and I think it would be, and I'm sure it's not going to be the only amendment.
Yeah.
It's going to mean that if we have always had the system of, this system of independence on the local level, and it has many, many challenges. One of the challenges it has is that when you are campaigning, you need to spend a lot of money. Nobody gives you money for campaigning unless you have to get that money from friends, you have to get it from companies and so on. And that is key, in my opinion. Where is this person who is independent going to get the funds for campaigning? Because that's what that person has to do.
Might it advantage people who have the money over people who feel that they have a role to play, but of course they can't access that kind of money?
No, they can't access the kind of money.
Yeah.
It is one of the things you have to do if you are somebody who is poor. If you have somebody who is a worker and is earning an average, let us say an average of 5,000 a month, or you're a worker wherever you are, you're an independent person, no qualification. And where do you get that money, and how are you going to raise the money? And how are you going to employ people to be your fundraisers for the money for you to run and be able to campaign all over the country? So those are the realities. And what kind of qualification do you have? Or does anyone qualify? Who checks on the reputation of that person, your records, your criminality, your corruption? And so it's a good idea. People who are independent like it because, you know, you don't have to be accounting to a political party. But there are a lot of responsibilities that they might have to look at that go with an independent person managing the lives of people for their future and managing a nation and managing very, very key responsibilities of protecting their lives from everything, including, you know, just whether they're able to get water, whether they're able to get food on their table.
So it's a decision made by the Apex Court, but certainly still plenty of questions on just exactly how it will work. Thanks so much for weighing in on the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Brigalia Bam there joining us, and of course she oversaw the first democratic election right here in South Africa, giving us her very important insights on this issue.